right, the last topic I want to talk about here, Gabe, is some of the extracurricular activities that were happening in the stands. Look, it's not fun. It's not fun being a Union fan.
Mm-mm.
I'm doing the Gargano show every morning. We're talking about the Sixers making some big signings. We're talking about the Phillies, one of the best, not the best team in baseball, and then the Union, right? And the other four teams in Philadelphia have great ownership groups. The Union, not a lot of people happy with that ownership group. So obviously everyone's seen the pictures and the clips. Keystone had a sign that they brought in, I think, with Sugar Ain't So Sweetie, more Sugarman. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't know if this was Sons of Ben or someone who was just sitting in the River's End who brought the sell the team sign there. And then we also had, I saw our dear friend of the show, Jared Nisley, which I have the tweet right here. Kind of, it looks like the Sons of Ben are going to do their thing as well. So from
Mm.
Jared Nisley, it is important for the fans' voice to be heard. The team is here because of the fans' persistence to bring a team to
Mm.
Philadelphia. To show what things will look like if the fan base is lost, starting today, we are calling for fans to remain silent for the first 5 minutes of every home game representing the current 5-game losing streak. For every loss moving forward, a minute will be added. Feel free to either sit or stand during this time. After the allotted time, we are asking for full voice and support for the players and coaches on the field to
Mm.
remind the team that we are still there for the team. If things continue to stay at the current state, there is a plan and progression in place. And that was from Jared Nisley, who's also a capo for the Union and a great capo for Sons of Ben, I'm sorry, and a great friend of the show here. But look, the frustration is gotten to the breaking point here for Union fans where they're using their power, their voice, right? The voice, that's why, we love the sport. Our voice can be heard. It is super tough here, man. But, kind of your thoughts, Gabe. The fans making their voice heard.
Yeah, I have a lot on this one, but I'll try to condense them sort of down. I don't think that the backlash of this year would be as loud as it is had the expectations not been so high at the beginning of the season. And so, do I think personally that we're at the point to be asking to sell the team? I don't. I really don't. And I know that may be different than maybe what some other people would think, and perhaps maybe I'll get some threats now because of that. But here's why, and I think of it in terms of two other Philadelphia teams because the city of Philly is through and through on their sports, die hard, and I think of the 2010 Phillies, and I think of the last season Eagles. And when you look at the two teams, you watch. There is a Phillies team who had just won a World Series in 2008, had made it back and lost to the Yankees, right? They found themselves at a scenario where they were having to decide what moves to make to either completely rebuild, which man, that was a tough decade, bro. That was a long decade.
Oh yeah.
And so you pivot to either to rebuild or to what I call like reload, or you go out, you splash, and you try to be competitive again, which I feel like is what really last season Eagles did. We made it in 2023 to the Super Bowl, and we lose to the Chiefs, which controversial, but we'll leave it there. And then what happens is Howie makes a decision to reload, and so I think we're 2 years removed from an MLS Cup. We've been consistently in the playoffs for the last couple of years. I think that I'm in a sort of a holding position of wait and see. We are vocalizing. There is fan bases who are very frustrated and are calling for some decisions for change to be made, right? But here's my thing: if this is something that can be solved with one or two stellar signings to establish sort of the excitement, the connection between organization and fan base. If it's one or two players away, I don't think we call for a sell. I think we just call for the decision to something to be changed. I will say the Apple or whoever was doing the coverage on Saturday did say something that I thought was interesting. They said that Coach Curtin, that Jim is sort of a victim of his own like stewarding. He has pulled the best out of very little at times and has made them a competitive team. And not to say there wasn't some amazing signings or not even signings, I guess more so academy products and the Aaronsons and the Mark McKenzies, all of that. I think that we are in a position now where 15 years in, the amount of times we've been in the playoffs, we have to keep that in mind. There are teams that struggle decades on decades. So I think that something needs to happen. Absolutely. But I don't know that it's at the point yet to call for something like that in terms of because let's be honest, selling of a team could mean a lot of things. That could mean relocation in some sports. That means you pick up and you're suddenly in, whatever, San Francisco, you know what I mean? Or whatever. And so not that would happen, but I think for right now where I'm at is there's definitely a call that something needs to change. But if it's the kind of change that 2 or 3 really good players could alter and put us back in a position, then I think we should sort of just sit and wait and see. If 2 windows goes by, nothing happens, we're still losing, then I'm like, okay, let's change this thing around.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like selling the team, like I know it's just like 3 words, but guys, that's like a big deal. Selling this is a whole organization, I know these are clubs, but this is a franchise essentially, and you sell it away, like that is a lot. But what I will say to this is that there's a reason why we live in this country, the freedom of speech. Every fan has every right to talk about what they feel. If that's how they truly feel, that is their right. They should be allowed to do that.
Sure.
Do I necessarily agree? No. And I think you brought up the point. The moves that they made, yes, were head scratching. And I'll break down in a second. But the fact is that this is like our first year where we've dealt with some serious frustrations in like 5 years, maybe 6 years, if that, right? So like it's been a while since we've been in this type of point. Like the Chicago Fire, that's a club that should be saying sell the team 120,000%. The San Jose Earthquakes, you guys should get together and ask to sell the team. Maybe FC Dallas in a little bit, right? Because they've been more stagnant than we have over the past couple years. But for me personally, why I kind of sympathize with these fans is that, look, you said it. 2 years ago, we were in the MLS Cup final. And you still, after that year, were one of the best teams, not the best team on paper in the Eastern Conference. But you saw what happened in the MLS Cup final. I mean, the individuals stepped up and made the big plays. You got Gareth Bale, which, by the way, I mean, only the big European teams, that only happens to them. So that's still a pretty cool feat that you got Gareth Bale to the MLS Cup final. But I digress. A superstar player got the best of you. And you're still building this team around the whole money ball in the soccer world. And although they built a really strong core, that was it.
Yep.
And then after last season, the Cincinnati loss, the fact that they thought that, hey, this team, the way it's constructed, is still good enough for this year, that to me was a significant flaw in just the negotiations, the front office, whatever you want to call it, for the Philadelphia Union. Because you still needed to add on to that team. I still think that after 2022, you should have still added 1 or 2 pieces. And by the way, the 2 big pieces that you lost after 22, Corey Burke and Paxton Aronson, we still are feeling those losses. Even 2 years later, you're feeling the losses of Burke and Paxton Aronson. So the frustration with the club not taking advantage of a championship, a legitimate, not like a hope. You legitimately had a shot of winning an MLS Cup, and yet they said that we're good. We'll run the same team. We'll keep some spots open for the young kids, which is another flaw in mentality as well. If a kid is not ready, he's not ready. You need to fill that position right now. And look at right now, you don't have depth. We're talking about Andrew Ricks of the world. You know, we're talking about youngsters. You know, every day, everyone's asking me when Kevin Sullivan's going to get out there. That's a 14-year-old kid. You think a 14-year-old kid's going to save the Union right now? Like, it'd be cool to see, but he's not saving our season. So the frustration I can sympathize, but I'm not at sell the team just yet. But you know,
that was well put, bro. I mean, I really do think that, you know, especially in Philly, you've got to be able to take the heat as an owner, as a team, as a player. You have to be able to take the heat because you will not last, right? And so that is super common in our city, and it's the beauty of our city because we love hard, man. We love hard, and it's tough love, you know. And so
we all silly like the mayor.